Campbell, and we'll be back with that in a moment here on CBS Sports Saturday. Skills. He's taking on a guy by the name of Charlie Campbell from Fort Worth, Texas, 17-3-1, tough guy. And as you'll see, Michael Nunn, I think, has made his presence in the middleweight ranks with the big fight coming up on Monday night. He's made his presence an important one because he figures in whatever happens after Hagler-Leonard. Let's go now to round number 1 of Michael Nunn and Charles Campbell. Now here is Michael Nunn from North Hollywood, California, from the 10 Goose stable, managed by Dan Goosen of the many Goosen brothers, including Greg Goosen, the former New York Met baseball player. And in the gold trunks, Charles Campbell from Fort Worth, Texas, 17-3-1. Nunn is undefeated, Gil, 21-0 with 13 knockouts. And I guess the question with Nunn, even though he has 13 KOs, is still how much power does he have? Has he got enough to take on the big guys, the physical big guys like Iran Barkley, and certainly somebody like champion Marvin Hagler?
Well, Tim, his 13 knockouts have always been all been with an accumulation of punches. He's not a big puncher with either hand, but he hits you with an awful lot of punches, very, very quick.
His last outing in February of this year, he stopped Willie Harris in Reseda, California in 6 rounds. Charles Campbell, one of his better wins over Ronnie Essett, an 8-round decision. And he won his last outing on February 4th of this year against Victor Claudio in Atlantic City over 8 rounds.
Tim, you know, anybody, both of these guys are southpaws, but anybody, if you don't like to watch southpaws, fix your set so that you're looking in a mirror. Then you think you see 2 regular guys fighting.
That's Michael Nunn in blue and Campbell in the gold. Nunn's been in with a few tougher guys than Campbell has, at least in terms of middleweight reputations. Charlie Boston, he won a 10-round decision, and Boston's been difficult for everybody he's fought. And Mike Tinley, likewise, and the veteran Alex Ramos, that was a 12-rounder, and Nunn won that with a decision. And Jorge Amparo, who last night gave Iran Barkley all he could handle through a 10-round fight here in Las Vegas. Amparo lost in 8, a decision to Michael Nunn back in 1985. So Nunn has the more experienced and tougher opponents behind him on his record and is undefeated, 21-0.
Tim, everybody on the West Coast is impressed with Michael Nunn. He's their hottest fighter. They're looking for him to win a world championship.
Get him up.
Richard Green is the, Richard Steele, pardon me, is the referee, and Richard's going to be working the big fight on Monday night. We talked about that earlier on our program in our roundtable discussion. Very respected referee, and he'll be the man, the 3rd man in the ring with Hagler-Leonard on Monday night.
You have to watch Michael Nunn's footwork. He's very, very quick. Gets out of the way. He's very, very hard to hit. It's like fighting Mercury or Quicksilver.
Good quick hands and good athletic movement. He's a very good-looking athlete. Final seconds of round number 1, scheduled 10-rounder middleweight, Michael Nunn and Charles Campbell. Well, Gil, we are in the setting here for Monday night's showdown between Hagler and Leonard, and guys like Michael Nunn and Iran Barkley, and Donald Curry now, they have to be sitting here in such anticipation, waiting to see what's going to happen. Michael Nunn still yet to really prove himself, but we've talked about those 3 guys. There's Harold Graham, and Barkley last night had his problems against Jorge Amparo. Which of these is most likely to emerge as, say, the legitimate #1 contender in the middleweights?
Well, I think we probably have to send the title over to Great Britain because I like Harold Graham.
Well, we haven't seen too much of him over here, and hopefully we'll have a look at Harold Graham on television soon in this country because having just seen him a couple of times, his ability is high, and yet there are doubters among the likes of people like Barkley and Nunn, of course, who think they can beat him, and he is scheduled to meet Iran Barkley, but Barkley may have to wait a little longer after the cut he suffered last night in his victory over Amparo. Well, now let's go back to round number 2, Michael Nunn and Charles Campbell, action that took place earlier here this afternoon at Caesars Palace in Las Vegas. Nunn remind you of anybody, Gil, in terms of recent middleweights, or is he bringing some new things to the ranks?
Tim, he reminds me of a fighter that was an Olympic champion. I believe it was 132 pounds. Grew up to be a middleweight, undefeated fighter for a long time. His name was Ronnie Harris, and it was very difficult for him to get fights because, I mean, he was so quick. Nobody could hit him, and he was a winner. But,
and he was a southpaw.
And he was a southpaw. And that was, you know, that old saying again, a lot of old-time fight managers say they should drown southpaws at birth.
Campbell certainly hasn't been intimidated to this point early in the fight by the punching power of Nunn. That, as we have commented, has been somewhat the reservation, shall we say. I hesitate to use the term knock on Nunn, but it has been the reservation about how far he can go in the middleweight ranks. We're early in round number 2.
Nunn is a very, very good defensive fighter. Not only the fact that he can move so quickly on his legs, Tim, but he keeps his elbows in, hands high. Very, very difficult to hit.
And there's Campbell digging to the body, and Nunn took the first 2 body shots, but you saw that good movement he has with his head and his upper body as he eluded the next flurry. Halfway through round number 2, scheduled for 10. It's certainly been a weekend of the middleweights. Iran Barkley defeating Jorge Amparo last night, and a little lucky to do so. Took a bad cut, but he has great heart and great power, and he hung right in there. Finally won the decision with a knockdown in the 9th round, helping him along the way. Michael Nunn here this afternoon. Donald Curry with his unfortunate victory, if you can put it that way. Another DQ, his second in a row, as he won over Carlos Santos. Keep himself in the middleweight picture. And now Michael Nunn, as we're watching here.
Fairly even up to this point in this round, Tim. Charles Campbell is giving a good account of himself.
What are you doing, Mike? Come on, Michael. Take him out. Work it, get up.
Michael Nunn's created a lot of excitement among California boxing fans, and certainly in the Goosen family, because they have that outstanding and exciting fighter, Frankie Duarte, who made that tremendous comeback, wound up losing a very disputed decision against Bernardo Pinango, and Californians hope that the Goosens will get another opportunity for Duarte and have Michael Nunn in the middleweight picture. We'll be back with rounds 8 and 9 of this middleweight bout when we return in just a moment.
I hate getting ripped off.
Oh, me too.
I took my car in for a muffler.
Oh, you got a Midas?
Oh, no. I went where they said the muffler would be $18. But no, for your car, the muffler will be more. Pay more, Seymour, more.
Get a Midas, I said,
Midas-size your muffler because Midas gets it right the first time. And that includes the estimate.
I should have come here the first time instead of trying to cut corners.
More and more men are keeping their bodies in shape. Their faces, too. Shaving's rough on your face. So every day, after every shave, splash on Skin Bracer. Skin Bracer cools, soothes, tightens pores.
That's the tingle. Smells great, too.
But Skin Bracer's not cologne. It's skin care you need. That's why more men are saying,
Thanks. I needed that.
Skin Bracer takes care of men who take care of their skin. Skin Bracer Aftershave.
By men.
Star Power, the NBA playoffs on CBS Sports.
Tim Ryan and Gil Clancy live from Caesars Palace in Las Vegas, Nevada. Moments ago, we saw Donald Curry win in a 5th-round disqualification over Carlos Santos, defending his USBA junior middleweight crown. An unfortunate finish, and not a fight that we would like to have seen presented here on CBS, especially since Donald Curry had that happen twice in a row, Tony Montgomery and Carlos Santos, and Santos was doing well enough in that fight, Gil, it seemed to me, that it wasn't necessary for him to get into the budding contest.
Very, very strange to me, Tim. In the gym, he said he didn't have that much respect for Donald Curry. He was willing to stand in front of him in this fight and punch with him, punch with a puncher. And I just don't understand what went through his mind or why he did it.
Disappointing, frustrating situation for Donald Curry. Well, getting back to our middleweight bout that took place earlier, we're watching it on videotape. We advance ahead to round number 8. Michael Nunn had done very well during the middle rounds. His boxing ability, I think, just kind of started to take over. He frustrated Campbell and was in command as we join the action now in round number 8 and take a look back at it along with you. Michael Nunn in blue, Charles Campbell in gold.
No, Tim, we watched rounds 1 and 2, and you'd think this was round 3 watching Michael Nunn and Charles Campbell. They're both full of pep. They both still have the same speed. Haven't lost anything.
Imagine the pressure on somebody like Michael Nunn fighting here this weekend in this setting with these circumstances, trying to impress all of the boxing people, all of the boxing media, and now he's really starting to get some combinations together and scoring heavily to the head of Charles Campbell. It's important not only that he win the fight, but he's got to impress everybody doing it.
That's right, Tim. That is a tough job. You know, they say win at any cost, but sometimes you just have to let it all hang out, gamble. You have to impress the people. This is entertainment, whether they understand it or not. We're not in amateur boxing.
Solid combination there. He brought a left uppercut, kind of an upward hook, and then followed right behind it. He's got very fast hands. You know, a middleweight I didn't mention in discussing the up-and-comers, a guy who they've been talking about a match between Nunn and Michael Olajide, another outstanding-looking middleweight.
Tim, you picked a beauty. Michael Olajide, I guess, is right up there on the top of the list, along with Harold Graham. I would pick either one of those two at the moment, Tim, if the title is vacated, to become champion of the world.
Nunn resting a little bit there, has covered up well, and Campbell unable to do anything with him. Campbell seems to have a little of the starch taken out of him, and it may be the frustration as much as the cumulative punching of Michael Nunn.
Tim, it is very, very frustrating to keep throwing punches and you just don't hit anything except gloves and arms.
I suppose the speculation would be, let's assume that Hagler wins the fight Monday night, defends again to try and get Carlos Monzon's title. Would Nunn have enough defensive ability to hold off a Marvin Hagler?
Tim, at the moment, I don't think that Michael Nunn punches hard enough to gain Hagler's respect. I think Hagler would be able to bull him, move him into the corner.
Hagler, of course, should he beat Sugar Ray Leonard, would consider, as he said publicly, staying on in order to tie the number of title defenses established by the former middleweight champion Carlos Monzon of Argentina.
He hasn't asked Bertha, Tim.
That's right, Bertha, his wife. And our condolences to Bertha on the death of her mother last weekend. Fine Hagler family. Well, that's the end of the 8th round. Michael Nunn and Charles Campbell, and we'll come back with the 9th round in a moment. Live from Las Vegas. Let's go now back on videotape to the 9th round of this fight. Gillen will see that Michael Nunn shows that he can punch a little bit. He's got 13 knockouts. Let's watch what happened here earlier today. Charles Campbell in gold, Michael Nunn in the blue trunks. 9th round scheduled for 10. You can see some lumpiness on the face of Charles Campbell, so he has taken punishment from Nunn through these 8 rounds, even though he hasn't been rocked or knocked down.
Tim, he's been hit an awful lot of clean punches, and a lot of them right on the button. And so far, he's still there. Nunn is setting himself a little more now, though, Tim. Look at those punches, right on the button.
Wow, and down he goes, Charles Campbell. First time in the fight, most impressive flurry by Nunn. He didn't miss any of those. They were all right on the button.
Like a 6-punch combination, Tim. Everyone right on the button. And the referee stopped the fight, and rightly so.
Richard Steele steps in and says that's enough. And Michael Nunn collects his 14th knockout victory, remains undefeated at 22-0. And the happy Goosen clan comes in as they know full well they've got a real fine middleweight contender on their hands. And I guess quickly, Gil, I know you've already indicated that he's got to be there. Just name the others in those ranks that you think, where does he fit in?
Well, I would have to rank them Michael Olajide, Harold Graham, and then perhaps Michael Nunn.
Okay, well, it at least makes the middleweight ranks interesting no matter what happens on Monday night, but everybody will wait to see what goes on between